Welcome to Faneuil Hall, also known as the Cradle of Liberty. This is the 11th stop on the Freedom Trail. Now, this was a gift to the town of Boston from a man named Peter Faneuil. And if you'll remember, when we were at the Granary Burial Ground, I pointed out his grave site. Peter had inherited a large sum of money from his rich uncle. He was just in his 30s at the time, but he was able to increase that wealth even more by trading in commodities. So he was trading in sugar, molasses, timber, fish. He even traded in slaves. So yes, he was part of the triangle trade. Unfortunately. Now in 1740, Peter comes to the town of Boston with a very generous offer to build them a new central marketplace. Well, the townspeople had to put it to a vote, and they weren't really sure that they wanted to do this because they felt like by having a central marketplace that the sellers might raise their prices and hurt the rest of the competition. So it just very narrowly passed with a vote of 367 to 360. So they did build it, and it was opened in 1742. They built a marketplace with a meeting hall on top. Now, just 6 months later, Peter Faneuil died, and probably one of the most important events that was ever held there, the first important event held there, was his funeral. Now in 1806, they've decided they've outgrown the marketplace. They need to make it a little bit larger. So they hire a man by the name of Charles Bulfinch. Maybe you've heard of him. He's the one that built the new State House, which was our second stop on the trail. And he's also the one that was a third architect to the Capitol and the one responsible for building the Capitol Dome back in Washington, D.C. So the building is expanded by twice its width, and they added another story to it. But still, on the second level, it's the same place where all the meetings took place. Now, during Revolutionary times, the speakers that spoke in there were those famous Samuel Adams, our Sons of Liberty leader, James Otis, who spoke out against the writs of assistance, and the one that coined the term taxation without representation is tyranny. In years to come, abolitionists would speak there, suffragettes would speak there, the labor union, whatever the political cause or movement going on at the time, that was a place to go to speak out, to protest, and to get your voice heard. Now, throughout the years, of course, other famous people have spoken there, such as John F. Kennedy, his brother Edward Kennedy, Mitt Romney, John Kerry, Barack Obama has even spoken there. So it's the place to go if you want to give a speech or a political speech. Now, on top of Faneuil Hall, there is a grasshopper weather vane, and this was a gift from a man named Shem Drown. Funny name, I know, but he gave it to Peter Faneuil back in 1742. So it is still the original grasshopper weather vane that is still there. And there's legends about the weather vane that in the War of 1812, it was said that if it was suspect if you didn't know what was on top of Faneuil Hall. So you might be asked, what's on top of Faneuil Hall in Boston? And if you didn't know that it was a grasshopper, they might consider you a spy. Another story is about 3 men that go to our American consulate in Glasgow, who was a Bostonian, and he asked them, what's on top of Faneuil Hall? Well, the first one said a fish, the second one said a horse, I think it was, and then the third one said it's a grasshopper. And he said, well, the third one, I will help you. The other two of you have to find your own way back to Boston. So I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway, it's also a time capsule. So they've always put different items of interest of the day in the belly of the grasshopper. But 200 years after Shem Drown died, and it was 1974, there was the great grasshopper heist. Yes, the grasshopper was stolen off the top of Faneuil Hall. Now, the man who was a detective on this, this awful crime was a man named Paul Revere Carroll. And believe it or not, he is a direct descendant of Paul Revere. Well, he receives a phone call from the district attorney saying that they have located a piece of the grasshopper. So he meets him in a park and he hands him over, I think it's the spire of the grasshopper, and then he takes him to Faneuil Hall, and they go up into the attic, and wrapped up in a bunch of cloth is the rest of the grasshopper. And supposedly it was a steeplejack that had previously worked at Faneuil Hall who was arrested on some drug charges, and he was hoping by doing this heist that and then turning it over that he would be able to get him off on the drug charges. So I'm not sure if that ever came to fruition or not, but after that they were able to put some kind of locking mechanism on top of the grasshopper so that it won't be stolen again. And of course they filled the belly up with whatever mementos, because whatever was in there was taken, unfortunately, and I don't think that was ever returned. Now, if you go to Faneuil Hall, directly across from Faneuil Hall is Quincy Market. This was built in 1826 because Mayor Josiah Quincy, who was working in the upper floor at Faneuil Hall, would look out of his window and he'd see all these carts that were spilling over into the street because the hall was just too small. So he proposes to build another marketplace. So now we have Quincy Market, and today it is still a food hall. It is not your average everyday food court. It is a food hall with specialties of New England. So if you come here and you're on the Freedom Trail, you need to take a break here at Faneuil Hall, Quincy Market. Try maybe a lobster roll or some clam chowder or a cannoli or maybe a piece of Boston cream pie. So it's a great place to visit. So I would visit both places, go into Faneuil Hall, talk to a park ranger, see if they will give you a tour of the meeting space upstairs. And if you want to sit outside and eat your lunch, there's street vendors. It's just a fun place to go. So I hope you learned a thing or two and hope you enjoy your time at Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market. I'll catch you on the next stop. Thank you. Bye.